The letter arrived in a crumpled envelope, postmarked from Montana, with my name scrawled in blue ink that bled slightly at the edges. Inside was a plane ticket to Boise, Idaho, and a single sentence: "Find me where the mountains meet the sky, Elias." My heart stopped, then raced, as if it could outrun the years since I'd last seen Julian. It was 2017, and I was 24, scraping by in a one-bedroom apartment in Chicago, where the wind howled through the cracks in the windows. I worked nights at a diner, serving coffee to truckers and dreamers, my own dreams buried under student debt and a nagging sense of being stuck. Julian had been gone for 3 years. 3 years since he'd kissed me under the flickering neon of a dive bar, promising we'd find a way to make it work. Then he vanished, leaving only a note: "I'm not running from you, Elias. I'm running towards something I need to find." I'd hated him for it, love him still. And now, this ticket, this cryptic message, felt like a lifeline thrown across a chasm. I turned the paper over in my hands, tracing the edges, wondering what kind of man Julian had become. We'd met in college, 2 kids from different worlds. Me, a black kid from Atlanta with a scholarship and a chip on my shoulder. Him, a wiry Korean-American from Seattle with a laugh that could light up a room. We'd bonded over late-night study sessions, shared playlists, and stolen glances that turned into something more. By senior year, we were inseparable, planning a future in a world that didn't always make space for us. But then he left, chasing something I couldn't understand. I booked the flight. Boise was a small airport, the kind where you could feel the weight of every arrival. When I landed, the air was crisp, the mountains looming like silent judges. I scanned the crowd, my pulse hammering. No Julian, just another envelope taped to a bench, this one with a ticket to Santa Fe and a new note: "I'm still searching, but I want you with me." My chest tightened. Was this a game? A test? I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the only way forward was to follow. Santa Fe was all color and heat, the kind of place that felt alive with history. I wandered the streets, clutching the ticket, my eyes darting to every face, hoping. At a small cafe, I found another envelope under a napkin, this one with a ticket to Austin and a message: "You always said you'd chase a good story. Chase me." I laughed, bitter and raw, because he was right. I'd always been a sucker for a story, and Julian was the best one I'd ever known. Austin was humid, the air thick with barbecue smoke and live music. I checked every bar on 6th Street, half expecting to see him strumming a guitar or leaning against a wall with that crooked grin. Instead, I found another ticket to Portland, Oregon, and a note: "I'm not hiding, Elias. I'm trying to show you something." Each ticket pulled me deeper into his world, a breadcrumb trail across the country, each note a piece of a puzzle I couldn't yet solve. I was angry, exhilarated, terrified. What was he running from? What was he running toward? And why did he need me to follow? By the time I reached Portland, I was unraveling. The city was gray and damp, the kind of place that made you feel like you were drowning in your own thoughts. I found the next ticket in a bookstore, tucked inside a copy of On the Road. The note read: "You're closer than you think." I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. Was I chasing a ghost? Or was Julian out there, waiting for me to catch up? I sat in a coffee shop, staring at the ticket to Denver, my hands shaking. 3 years of silence, and now this. A scavenger hunt across states, each note a whisper of the man I'd loved. I didn't know if I was chasing closure or a second chance, but I knew I couldn't stop. Not yet. Denver was all altitude and ambition, the Rockies cutting sharp against the horizon. I landed with a headache and a heart full of questions, the latest ticket burning a hole in my pocket. Julian's notes were starting to feel like poetry, vague, beautiful, infuriating. "Find me where the air feels thin," the last one had said, and I wondered if he meant the mountains or the space between us. I checked into a cheap motel, the kind with flickering fluorescent lights, and a clerk who didn't look up from his phone. I spent the first day wandering, my eyes scanning every crowd for Julian's lanky frame, his dark eyes, that half smile that always made my knees weak. Nothing. Just another envelope, this time slipped under my door, with a ticket to New Orleans and a note. I'm learning to be brave, Elias. Are you? I wanted to tear it up, to call it quits, but the truth was, I wasn't just chasing Julian. I was chasing the version of myself I'd lost when he left. New Orleans was a fever dream of jazz and sweat, the French Quarter alive with voices and secrets. I walked the cobblestone streets, the weight of his absence heavier than the humid air. At a bar on Bourbon Street, I found the next ticket taped to a jukebox, alongside a note. This city knows how to love. Do you remember how? My throat tightened. I remembered every moment, every kiss, every fight, every promise we'd made under the stars. I ordered a whiskey and drank to forget, but the ticket to Miami in my hand wouldn't let me. Miami was all flash and heat, the kind of place that made you feel like you could reinvent yourself. I didn't want reinvention. I wanted answers. I found the next ticket in a beachside cafe, tucked inside menu. The note read, "I'm trying to show you who I am now." I wanted to scream at him, to demand why he couldn't just call, why he needed this elaborate chase. But deep down, I knew Julian had always been a wanderer, his heart too big for one place, one person. Maybe this was his way of letting me in. I sat on the beach, the waves crashing like my thoughts. Each ticket was a leap of faith, each note a confession. I thought about the first time we'd kissed, in a dorm room cluttered with books and dreams. He'd tasted like mint and possibility, and I thought we could take on the world. Now, I wasn't sure if I was chasing love or closure, but I booked the flight to Seattle anyway. Seattle was where Julian had grown up, where his roots ran deep. The city felt like him, moody, vibrant, a little untamed. I wandered Pike Place Market, the smell of fish and coffee grounding me as I searched for the next clue. I found it in a flower stall, a ticket to Nashville and a note. "I'm not the same, Elias, but I still see you in everything." My heart ached. I wanted to hate him for leaving, for making me chase him like this, but every note reminded me why I'd loved him, why I still did. Nashville was loud, all twang and heartbreak. I checked every honky-tonk, every corner, hoping to see him. Instead, I found another ticket, this one to Boston, with a note. "We're almost there." Almost where? I wanted to believe he was waiting, that this wasn't some cruel game. But doubt was a heavy passenger, and I carried it with me as I boarded the next plane. Boston was crisp and academic, the kind of city that felt like it was judging you. I landed in October, the leaves turning crimson, mirroring the fire in my chest. Julian's latest note, "I've been lost, but you're my compass," had me spiraling. How could he say that after 3 years of silence? I wanted to find him, just to shake him, to demand why he'd left me to drown in my own questions. I wandered Harvard Square, the ticket to Charleston clutched in my hand. I was tired of planes, of searching, of hoping. But every note kept me tethered, each one a reminder of the boy who'd made me believe in love. I found a next envelope in a used bookstore, tucked inside a dog-eared copy of Whitman. The ticket was to Phoenix, the note simple. "I'm scared, Elias. But I'm trying." Scared of what? I wanted to scream it into the Boston wind, but I booked the flight instead. Phoenix was a furnace, the desert stretching endless and unforgiving. I felt exposed, like the sun could burn away my defenses. I found a next ticket at a roadside diner, slipped under a plate of fries. The note read, "You're the only one who ever saw me." My eyes stung. I remembered the nights we'd spent talking about our fears, mine of never being enough, his of never finding his place. I thought we'd face those fears together, but he'd run instead. Charleston was all charm and history, the air heavy with salt and stories. I walked the Battery, the ocean whispering secrets I couldn't decipher. The next ticket to Minneapolis was hidden in a church pew, the note almost desperate. "I'm not running anymore." My heart lurched. Was he finally ready to stop? To face me? I wanted to believe it, but the trail of tickets felt endless, each one a promise and a wound. Minneapolis was cold, the kind of cold that seeped into your bones. I found a next ticket in a coffee shop, taped to a mug. The note was longer this time. I left because I was afraid I'd ruin you. I'm trying to be someone you deserve. I sat there, staring at the words, my coffee going cold. I didn't want a better version of him. I wanted the messy, brilliant boy I'd fallen for. I booked the flight to Salt Lake City, my hands trembling with anger and hope. Salt Lake City was quiet, the mountains a silent backdrop to my racing thoughts. I found the next ticket in a park, tucked into a bench. The note read, "You're almost here." I didn't know what here meant, but I was too deep to turn back. Each ticket, each note, was a piece of Julian's heart, scattered across the country. I was collecting them, piecing them back together, even as I wondered if I'd ever be whole again. Salt Lake City's mountains felt like they were watching me, their peaks sharp against a sky too big to hold. The latest note, "You're almost here," echoed in my mind as I boarded the flight to Kansas City. I was exhausted, my savings dwindling, my heart a tangle of hope and hurt. But Julian's words kept me going, each one a thread pulling me closer to him, or to the truth. Kansas City was alive with barbecue and blues, the kind of place that made you feel like you could start over. I didn't want to start over. I wanted to finish what we'd started. I found a next ticket in a jazz club, slipped inside a napkin. The note was raw. "I've been afraid to love you the way you deserve." I read it again and again, my chest tight. He'd always been the brave one, the one who'd kiss me in public when I was too scared, who'd talk about forever like it was possible. Now, he was the one afraid, and I was the one chasing. The ticket took me to Atlanta. Not my Atlanta, but a different one, in Georgia, where the air was thick with peaches and pride. I wandered the streets, my heart heavy with memories of my own city, of the boy I'd been when I met Julian. The next ticket, to Raleigh, was hidden in a botanical garden, the note simple but shattering. "I'm sorry I left you." I sat on a bench, the words blurring through tears. I wanted to forgive him, but forgiveness felt like letting go, and I wasn't ready for that. Raleigh was all Southern charm and quiet ambition. I found the next ticket in a library, tucked inside a book of poetry. The note read, "I've been writing my way back to you." My breath caught. Julian had always been a writer, his words sharp and true, cutting through the noise of the world. Was this his story? Our story, unfolding across states? I booked the flight to Indianapolis, my heart pounding with questions. Indianapolis was gray and industrial, the kind of place that felt like it was waiting for something to happen. I found the next ticket in a museum, slipped inside a pamphlet. The note was a confession. I left because I didn't know how to be enough for you. I wanted to find him, to tell him he'd always been enough, that it was his absence that had broken me. I boarded the flight to Columbus, my resolve hardening. Columbus was vibrant, the kind of city that felt like it was trying to prove itself. I found the next ticket in a coffee shop, taped to a cup. The note read, "I'm ready to stop running." My heart leapt. Was this it? Was he finally waiting for me? I wanted to believe it, but the trail of tickets had taught me to expect another note, another flight. I booked the ticket to Anchorage, my hand steady but my heart racing. Anchorage was wild and cold, the kind of place that made you feel small against the vastness of the world. The ticket to Honolulu was waiting in a small bookstore, tucked inside a journal. The note was different this time, softer. "I've been carrying you with me all this time." I sat on a bench outside, the Alaskan wind biting at my skin, and read it again. Julian had always been a wanderer, but these words felt like an anchor, pulling me toward him. Honolulu was a shock of color and warmth, the ocean stretching endless and inviting. I found the next ticket at a beachside cafe, slipped inside a menu. The note read, "I'm trying to find home. You're the closest thing I've got." My heart ached. I remember the nights we'd spent dreaming of a home together, a place where we could be ourselves without fear. I wanted that home, but I didn't know if Julian was still part of it. I booked the flight to Boise, the cycle starting again. Boise was familiar, a full-circle moment that made my chest tight. I'd started here, chasing a ghost, and now I was back, no closer to answers. The next ticket, to Cheyenne was hidden in a park, the note raw. I'm afraid you won't love who I've become. I wanted to find him, to tell him it didn't matter, that I'd love him through anything. But doubt crept in. What if he was right? What if we'd both changed too much? Cheyenne was windswept and lonely, the kind of place that made you feel like you were the only one left in the world. I found an next ticket in a diner, slipped under a plate. The note was a plea. I need you to see me. I booked the flight to Bismarck, my heart a mess of hope and fear. I was so close, I could feel it, but I didn't know what I'd find at the end. Bismarck was quiet, the plains stretching endless under a gray sky. The next ticket to Helena was waiting in a library, tucked inside a book of love letters. The note read, I've been writing you into every place I've been. I closed my eyes, picturing Julian in every city, carrying me with him. I wanted to believe he was waiting, that this wasn't just a trail of apologies. I boarded the flight, my heart pounding. Helena was all mountains and memories, the air sharp with possibility. The ticket to Concord was waiting in a small cafe, slipped inside a napkin. The note was simple. I'm waiting for you. My breath caught. After all this time, all these miles, was he finally here? I wanted to believe it, but the trail had been so long, so winding, I was afraid to hope. I booked the flight, my hands shaking. Concord was quaint and quiet, the kind of place that felt like it held secrets. I wandered the streets, the ticket to Montpelier burning in my pocket. The next note was waiting in a bookstore, tucked inside a novel. I've been trying to find the words to tell you I love you. My heart stopped. I'd spent years rereading his notes, searching for him in every word, and now this. I wanted to find him, to hold him, to tell him I'd never stopped loving him. I boarded the flight, my resolve stronger than ever. Montpelier was small, the kind of town where everyone knew everyone. I found a next ticket in a park, taped to a bench. The note was a promise. I'm here, Elias. I'm yours. Tears stung my eyes. I was so close, so tired, so ready. I booked the flight to Augusta, my heart a drumbeat in my chest. Augusta was all pine and possibility, the air thick with the promise of spring. I found a next ticket in a coffee shop, slipped inside a cup. The note read, one more stop. I wanted to laugh, to cry, to scream. One more stop, and then what? I booked the flight to Juneau, my heart a tangle of hope and fear. Juneau was wild and remote, the kind of place that felt like the edge of the world. The ticket to Albany was waiting in a small gallery, tucked inside a painting. The note was a confession. I've been afraid to face you, but I'm ready now. I closed my eyes, picturing Julian's face, his smile, his eyes. I was so close, but the weight of the journey pressed against me. I boarded the flight, my heart racing. Albany was gray and unassuming, the kind of city that felt like it was waiting for something to happen. I landed with my heart in my throat, the final ticket to Montpelier again, clutched in my hand. The note was simple, meet me where it ends. I knew where to go. I'd seen a small park in Montpelier, a quiet place with a bench overlooking a river. It felt right, like the kind of place Julian would choose. I took the flight back to Montpelier, my chest tight with anticipation. The town was just as I'd left it, small and serene, the air crisp with the promise of something new. I walked to the park, my steps quickening, my heart pounding. And there he was. Julian stood by the bench, his hair longer, his frame leaner, but his eyes the same, dark, warm, full of stories. He looked at me, and for a moment the world stopped. Elias, he said, his voice breaking. I wanted to run to him, to yell at him, to kiss him, but my feet were rooted to the ground. I'm sorry, he said, stepping closer. I left because I was scared. Scared I wasn't enough, scared I'd hold you back. I thought I needed to find myself, but all I found was how much I need you. I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. You could have told me. You didn't have to make me chase you across the country. He smiled, that crooked grin I'd loved for years. I wanted you to see it, the world, me, us. I wanted you to know I'm all in, Elias. No more running. I stepped forward, closing the distance between us. You're an idiot, I said, but my voice was soft, my hands reaching for his. He laughed, and it was the sound of home. We sat on the bench, the river flowing below us, and he told me everything. How he'd spent 3 years wandering, writing, trying to become someone worthy of me. I told him he'd always been enough, that the chase had been worth it, because it led me back to him. The sun set, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. We didn't have all the answers, but we had each other. And as I held his hand, the weight of every ticket, every note, every mile settled into something new. A promise, a future, a love that had crossed the country to find its way home.